So it's important as we start to learn to use Photoshop that we become familiar with the workspace as well as some preferences. You guys have options to this semester. I've got two documents open here. I just want to start out first by pointing out if you do have multiple documents open, we do have the option here to be able to use tabs. Usually by default the tabs are going to be enabled so that any new documents would show up as tabs, kind of like what you might be used to in a web browser. So with that said, in some cases you may want to be able to take this tab and basically separate the document so that you can see both. Just know that literally it's just dragging that top bar of the document and either pulling it away or bringing it right back. So at any point you can navigate between two documents. Usually as we go through, over on the left we're going to have options here for our tools. You will notice, and in some cases your workspace might be set up a little bit differently. We'll talk about ways that we can navigate that, but in most cases it's going to be on the left side. We do have this option here, these little arrows that will allow you to view either a two-column toolbar or a one-column. I actually prefer one column so that I have more real estate for my document that I'm working on. So as we go through, we are going to learn a lot more about the tools. You will notice as you hover, you're going to start to be able to learn a little bit more about the tools. Each tool does usually have a shortcut, so as you hover it right next to the name of the tool, you will see a letter. And that shortcut will help you get to that tool even faster than sitting there clicking on the tool itself. As you look at these tools, there's a little arrow on some of them at the bottom right. I don't know if you guys can see that, but that means that there are tools nested underneath. So if we click it once, we're going to see all of those different tools. And in some cases, especially when you're working in a lab environment or on a shared computer, you may actually have a tool showing that is not necessarily usually the default because somebody else has used it. So it's important to know how we get back and forth between those different tools. The other thing is, down here at the bottom we've got options for like our foreground and our background color. So as we start to design, you're going to have options to use a foreground or a background color with various things. All we have to do to change this is just double click on it, and then we can just go in and test or type in numerical values for colors. We will get into a lot more detail with how to navigate that panel. If you do want to switch these, it's literally clicking on this arrow, or the shortcut is X. So you can literally click X and it's going to switch that foreground and background color. We're not going to go into every little icon, but we'll get into the important ones. You will see over here on this bottom left we have this option called Change Screen Mode, and if you click on it you're going to see three different options. There is a shortcut which is F, and if you click the F, every single time it's going to show you a different screen mode so that you can view your documents differently. So what happens is this is going to display it so that I can see just my document, which might be helpful when you're presenting. Or if you want to get back to that original where you have all your panels expanded, you can basically click this option, or the next one just kind of helps collapse some of that stuff so that you only see a minimum amount of it. So again, the shortcut for that is F. Up at the top and on the left side you will notice that we have a ruler, and this ruler here is set right now to pixels because that was the last time I was using measurements. I teach a lot of web design, so I happen to be in pixels quite often. But you may actually want to navigate to view a different version of measurements. So if you control click, you're going to notice different measurements. So you may actually want to see inches instead of pixels. And then the other thing to notice is in some cases this ruler may not even be visible to you. And so if you go up to view, here's this option here for rulers. So you can make that ruler go away or you can make it come back. And you will notice a lot of these commands in Photoshop will basically have a shortcut, and so that means that if you remember these shortcuts you can work a little bit faster. So I'm going to actually turn those rulers back on. The other nice thing is as we work on designs you can actually drag guides. We may not need this for our first project where we're retouching, but this is going to be useful to you as you design, and you can actually align things. Literally you click on the ruler and drag and it brings that guide down, and then you can drag it right back up and it goes away, and it's almost like deleting it. Okay. With that said, we do have a lot of other options up here. So up at the top we have all these different menu options. So we have File, and there are a lot of different choices there. We're not going to learn every single one right now, but throughout the semester you are going to become familiar with a lot of these. The Edit option is going to usually edit something specific in your document. Most often you might do things like free transform or you know, various types of editing features. Content aware is also available in there. We also have Image, which allows us to look at like the color mode. It also allows us to look at adjustments, which we don't use as much now that we have adjustment layers, but you may still need them at some point. We also have things like image size and canvas size, and those will basically allow you to change either the size of your image or the size of your canvas. And then we also have this option here to rotate our image. So there's a lot of cool stuff there. The layer icon or menu is going to basically allow you to get through various things that will change things related to your layers. So that's going to be helpful. Type is obviously for type related stuff. Selecting is going to be for whenever we start learning more about selections, you're going to be able to go in and do a little bit more through that menu. Filter is going to do specialized effects. We don't use this quite as much, but there are some effects later in the semester we'll get to. If you happen to do any 3D, there's going to be a lot of options in there for you. And then we've also got a view menu, which allows you to do things like zoom in and zoom out. And those are two of my favorite shortcuts, Command plus and Command minus. And then also the fit on screen, which is Command 0. And then the window menu is, as we start to learn these panels, you will notice they are checked if they are visible. So that means that they are on. If one is not visible, for instance, if we get into a demonstration and you're trying to follow along and you need maybe, you know, the paragraph or the character styles, which has more to do with typography, you would just basically click it and then it pops up on my screen right here. Okay, and it's actually kind of hidden behind my layers right down here. So there are a lot of options. I do have a lot of panels open here. At any point you can literally make them kind of hide and go away for a little bit. You can also drag them, kind of like we drug the document around. We can drag it to a different point wherever we want it to be displayed. Okay. We do also have the option for workspaces under the window menu. So for example, if you would like to save your workspace once you have customized it, you have the option here to create a new workspace or delete workspaces. There is also that quick shortcut right here to be able to navigate between different workspaces. You may find that for certain types of documents like print or photos, you may use one specific workspace and different panels, and then for others like maybe web, you might use different panels. So you get to decide whether or not you want to customize your workspace. Sometimes on your personal computer it's very worthwhile, and even in a lab computer, if you want to save a workspace and you come back to it, it might help make sure that it's the way that you want it to be. As we go through, you do see a lot of these different panels here. We can literally click on them and they'll open up, and you will get to learn a lot more about each one of these throughout the semester. Some will learn in more detail than others, but it's important for you to be familiar with this workspace as we go forward, so that we become a little bit more comfortable working in Photoshop. There is one other area I wanted to point out. Photoshop has preferences, and you see all these different categories. We won't get into every single one, but I'm just going to click on General Preferences. And as we go through, we can click on each one of these topics and we can see various things such as the appearance of your Photoshop. If you want it to be a darker background or a lighter background, you can choose those options. The workspace settings, whether or not you want things to open a certain way. Settings related to your tools. We've got history log, file handling might be one that you come into in relation to how things are saving or exporting. We also have performance, and this is a really important one because Photoshop only has 50 history settings. And what that means is as we work in Photoshop, we basically can undo only one time. So Command Z is undo. However, there is a history panel which we can undo multiple times. So however many is set here, that is how many times we can undo using the history panel. Okay, and then we've got scratch disks. If you ever get that error about scratch disks, that's one place to go look and check it out and see if the settings work for you. We've got different displays when you're using specific cursors. Transparency, how it's going to display in Photoshop. Your units and rulers, again, this is all stuff that you can customize if you feel the need to. It doesn't mean you have to, but there are options. Another useful one is being able to customize your grids and guides, and slices are not used as much these days, but as you begin to use guides or grids, you may actually want them to be a certain color or to be spaced a specific way. There are options there for you. If you happen to use plugins, there are some options. We've got type options, 3D options. And again, you may not get into some of these, so we won't go into all the details right now. But the more important part is to know that if you do need to adjust any of these preferences, you need to know where to go to get them. So basically, we're going to go to File, Preferences, and then General, or you can choose the specific one that you would like. And that should help you if you ever need to customize anything specific to your preferences in Photoshop. So with that said, we are going to pause this video and learn more about more Photoshop features in our next video. I hope this helps you guys better understand the workspace as well as preferences that might be valuable to you throughout the semester.